In a world where everyone strives for stability and certainty, there's a temptation to think that control is the key to security and success. It seems that by tightly holding the reins of your life, you can avoid suffering and bend the course of events to your will. However, upon closer inspection, this confidence turns out to be a fragile illusion, behind which a deep fear lurks. The desire for total control manifests in micromanaging every aspect of life, from future plans to the smallest details in relationships with others. But the paradox is that the tighter the grip, the faster the desired outcome slips through your fingers like sand. The fear of failure and uncertainty is masked by carefully crafted strategies, and anxiety about the future pretends to be diligent preparation. Ancient philosophers, such as the Stoics, offered a different path to true strength and freedom. They did not call for domination over the external world, but pointed to the need to master oneself, one's thoughts, and emotions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who possessed immense power, understood that the only kingdom truly subject to a person is their own mind. He wrote that it is the power over one's thoughts, not over external circumstances, that grants true strength and freedom. Realizing this truth can be a turning point in the life of anyone who seeks control. By letting go of the illusion of power over the external world, one can find genuine strength within oneself and learn to accept the inevitable with wisdom and tranquility. Freedom from the need to control everything is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of maturity and a deep understanding of life. Those who are ready to accept the unpredictability of the future, who do not strive at all costs to achieve the desired result, and who are guided in their actions by moral principles rather than fleeting whims, gain genuine invulnerability and freedom. In striving for peace of mind, one should abandon the obsessive idea of predicting every aspect of the coming day and the futile attempts to influence the opinions of others. It is important to realize that life does not have to be cloudless, fair, or perfect. Epictetus, the ancient Greek philosopher, expressed this thought best. Among all that happens, there is what is subject to us, and what does not depend on us. And the main task is to learn to distinguish one from the other. A person should express themselves, act boldly, relying on reason and inner convictions, without paying attention to the reaction of the external world. Discipline is not rigid control over everything, but rather the ability to subject oneself to truly important things, to abandon selfish aspirations, and the awareness of one's own uniqueness. Stoicism, a philosophical movement, teaches us to discard everything superfluous and superficial. It helps to gain clarity of mind and detachment, but not insensitivity. A person begins to understand that all the necessary qualities, inner strength, wisdom, and determination, are already inherent in them. The desire for total control is generated by fear of chaos, but chaos is an integral part of life. It is full of surprises, often unfair and inexorable. A Stoic does not try to fight this truth, but accepts it, just as a tree bends under gusts of wind, but does not break. He learns to remain steadfast, not because the world around him is stable, but because he himself possesses an inner core. Reflecting on human nature, Seneca once remarked that our sufferings are more often caused by imagination than by real events. Indeed, the fears that torment us often turn out to be mere figments of the imagination, and anxieties are disembodied ghosts that haunt the mind. The desire for control, This desperate attempt to hold the fleeting world in one's hands cannot protect against life's storms and adversities. It only distracts from the main thing, preparing one's soul for a steadfast and courageous experience of these trials. By letting go of control, a person releases a colossal supply of energy that was previously wasted on futile attempts to manage the unmanageable. Instead, they turn their gaze inward to where true strength lies, to their decisions, to their attitude, to what is happening, to their honesty with themselves and the world. For centuries, humanity has been subjected to deception, to false beliefs. We were taught that strength manifests in violence, that domination is synonymous with leadership, and that control is a guarantee of safety. However, a Stoic, a philosopher tempered by life, knows that true strength lies in patience and endurance. Genuine leadership is not dictation, but an inspiring example. Safety stems from the awareness of one's ability to cope with any challenges that life throws. After all, a person's true strength does not depend on external circumstances. It is rooted in their virtue. A person is not a raging storm, sweeping away everything in its path, but a reliable anchor, giving stability and confidence in the most difficult times. By ceasing to desperately cling to the elusive, they gain the ability to rise above circumstances. By letting go of what does not belong to them, they free their hands to create something truly their own. When the need for everything to go according to plan disappears, a person becomes truly unstoppable. And this happens not because the world around has changed, but because the person themselves, their perception and attitude to life have changed. Letting go of control is not a manifestation of passivity, but evidence of inner strength. It is the ability to rise above the bustle, to stop needing the superfluous, and to start living a full life, stopping controlling everything around in order to start commanding oneself. Recalling the most outstanding personalities that a person has ever encountered, the question arises, were they subject to madness? Were they haunted by an obsession with details, appearance, and unwavering confidence? Or, on the contrary, were they distinguished by composure, concentration, and the ability to remain calm in a whirlwind of chaos? This is the essence of Stoicism, not in the absence of feelings, but in the presence of nerves of steel, not in apathy, but in impenetrable armor. Stoicism calls for letting go of the desire for total control as well as dependence on the opinions of others. It is necessary to free oneself from the need to please, to be loved and understood, as well as from the desire to avoid painful experiences at any cost. It is important to stop looking for explanations for every tragedy and to abandon the illusory life in order to build the one that actually exists. A person should not be a puppet, pulled by the strings of circumstances. Their destiny is to be a pillar, withstanding the onslaught of storms. But this is impossible if they are chained by everything that is beyond their influence. A person is born not to cling to something, but to carry their cross. To carry wisdom, not a burden, clarity, not the desire for control, their principles, not fleeting preferences. A Stoic does not resist reality, but harmonizes with it. They do not complain about injustice, but prepare for future trials. They do not strive for comfort, but become someone who does not need it. The true strength of a person is manifested in the ability to maintain steadfastness of spirit when life circumstances bring chaos to carefully laid plans. This is the ability not to succumb to the destructive effects of betrayal, remaining true to one's principles and beliefs. This is inner steadfastness, when, despite the vague prospects of the future, moral guidelines remain unchanged. The desire for control is a natural human need, but true greatness lies in the ability to let go of the situation. This process requires complete dedication, but in return gives invaluable gifts: freedom from bonds, inner peace, and an inexhaustible source of strength. It is important to ask yourself, what aspects of life is a person desperately trying to control without having a real basis for this? What pain does they inflict on themselves by stubbornly refusing to accept the inevitable? And what incredible strength could they unleash by simply ceasing to cling to the illusions of control? Today is the perfect moment for change. It is not about striving for world domination, but about achieving harmony with oneself. Letting go of control means starting to live for real. You can continue the senseless struggle with the course of life, clench your fists in futile attempts to subjugate the world to your will, impose your own scenarios on fate, and keep in your life those who seek to leave. You can try to control the perception of others, their attitude, and memories. However, in the end, the world continues to move forward, regardless of a person's desires and efforts. People come and go, plans fail, the worst fears come true, and long-awaited dreams remain unfulfilled. Encountering the truth often leads to the realization that control is just a mirage, an ephemeral belief. The pursuit of absolute control usually leads to the opposite effect, destroying a person from within. Abandoning this illusion is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of maturity and acceptance of reality in its true form. This means stopping the useless struggle, moving from passive expectation to active action, from supplication to self-realization. The philosophy of Stoicism teaches not about conquering the world around, but about self-control in any circumstances. It calls for letting go of what is beyond control and focusing on what is truly important, on personal choice, thoughts, and character. It is here that true strength is born, in the silence that comes after admitting defeat, in the peace of mind that can withstand any life storms, in a soul free from need and fear. Therefore, it is worth moving forward, not trying to predict every step, but relying on the inner essence. It is necessary to free oneself from the obsessive pursuit of results, from the opinions of others, and from the binding fear. Beyond the illusory control lies the true version of oneself, more calm, strong, and invulnerable. However, this meeting will not take place until the final liberation from the desire to control everything.